Welcome in to We Gon' Figure It Out.
Huh. See, we should get paid.
I put a little bit more movement into it today.
I think my hood was extra. I like this part
That's because I was hyped.
Nobody watches this part live with us. So like,
but they go back in.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, so we can say whatever we want to right now, that no one would care.
Yes.
At all. How was your day? While we wait on people to come in, how was your day?
My day was full of
joy.
Yes.
There you go.
My day was great, in the words of Pastor David.
All right.
How was yours?
It was great. It was it was Andrew for the most part. Okay. All right. So today's show is gonna be, we named it the MisMatched show.
The MisMatched.
MisMatched show. But it's about differences in
Hey Ramal, hey Derek.
In relationships. Like can you date someone outside of your religion or marry someone outside of your religion? How do you just have general work relationships with someone outside of your religion? Also with politics, how do we get along in the area of politics? Like how do we navigate some of these difficult conversations? So the MisMatched show, because this comes up a lot, like especially when it comes towards religion. Mm-hmm. Like that we have this thing in mainstream society where everyone should coexist. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's a bad thing, right? But what I'm saying is there's always a bunch of lines that people, that people have to teeter when it comes to this. Mm-hmm. So this topic could go really deep because even within Christianity, you have people who segmented down to denominations. And they feel like, well, I'm not going to mess with a Baptist or I'm not going to do...
Kima's in there. Hey, Kima.
Hey. So there's so many different ways that people kind of talk about it. But we're not going to go as deep into the religious aspect of it. But we're just going to more or less say like on the surface level. So when you were dating, did you ever think about, or did you ever date someone who had a different belief system as you?
Not that I was aware of.
Yeah.
Not that I know of, but when I was dating, I wasn't really, I guess, following the way.
Right.
So that didn't come up much.
Okay.
So
for me,
what about you?
No, I mean I think it's always been a central part of of who I am. Mm-hmm. So it's always come up at some point, like what my belief system is. I think one of the scarier things to run across is you can date a person and feel as though you have fallen in love with them, and you can go on a long journey with them, and then feel like, well, now that I'm already in, mm-hmm. and I find out they don't quite have the same belief system, but I already love them. Is that possible?
Well, this is the thing that I would say probably happens most is they just don't believe at all.
Right. You
know what I'm saying? And then so you've gone that far with this person, and when you're ready to start, going to church and, doing these different things, and they just don't even...
And I think the funny thing where it comes in is like if we're not devout at whatever it is we do, that's mm-hmm. what makes it subjective. Because think about it. If you're a person, and let's just say, and I'm going to use Christianity for example, mm-hmm. if you follow Jesus, at some point it seems like it comes up in a conversation. So that's one of those like poke at you kind of moments where you could actually, if you were dating or even at a point of marriage and it hasn't come up yet, mm-hmm. how? Like a few minutes into knowing a person, that should be part of it almost. Right. But I think the way society is set up now is we're told to kind of suppress and push those things to the side. Mm-hmm. Like you can't really talk about who you are.
Right.
You can't talk
fully.
That part of it. Like I want to know about your personality, your life story, but I don't need to know your religious preference, or I don't need to know what your belief system is.
Right.
And I think that's one of the issues that confuses a lot of people, or not, because they feel conflicted once you already are in love, or you feel like you're digging this person and they're like, nah, I don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
Or if they think, or they don't respect your belief system. Mm-hmm. Those things can be very difficult to deal with. I think for me, from my standpoint, if the religious belief system or the belief system that you have sets and has something that it sets a boundary, such as with us as Christians, we have a boundary kind of set on us that's sort of like, if we believe that Jesus is the one way, right? So with us, that's kind of a boundary setter. Right. Like you can't really go too many different directions.
Right.
And so I found myself in friendships with a lot of individuals who they may be like Buddhist. I have a couple of Buddhist friends and people I've worked out with and other things, and we always get to that point where they believe like I can walk in there with a Jesus shirt on, talk about Jesus all day. They believe in him, but they just don't believe he's the only way.
Right.
And the friendships always they're still authentic. We're still good friends, and I respect, their right to believe whatever, and they respect mine. But we're talking like, could I ever actually, if I asked the question, could I ever be in a long-term serious relationship such as marriage with someone who has a different belief system of that nature? I think for me,
I think that it would be conflicting. I mean, because, with the boundaries of Christianity, and then you have different, belief systems, how do you cross mingle, or intermingle with that? Right. Or,
well, even just the act of marriage in itself, with you believing that marriage is a covenant between me, you, and God, and your definition of God is different than my definition, because we all can agree in general, no matter what religion you are, we all love the idea of saying God is love. Like, we all love saying that. And with that, we can say a lot of general terms, but my definition of God includes Jesus. Like, if someone else's definition of God includes other things, then
it doesn't work.
Yeah, then it's then the love. Then at some point that love breaks down, because your definition of God, which is love, changes. It varies in different areas.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that we've always had to work through, and that's one of the differences when it comes to being mismatched. That me and you, we hatched that out really soon to find out what our belief systems were. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to have success, in the courting process, knowing the direction we want to go, because when times did get rough and we had to separate, that was the common bond that brought us back together.
Right. That's the only thing that brought us back together.
So I think that's one of the, that's one of the tougher things, I think, for a lot of people to kind of deal with in those different areas. There's also there's the politics side of it that can get messy, and I notice as we've dealt with this kind of topic in relation to like just how you deal with your people in the office and different things like that, that's difficult enough to deal with. Navigate
but
through.
You were, if you were someone who has a different party or party affiliation than you, then
it's so there's different.
Talk about that stuff.
See,
or is that private
so
amongst
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. Like, so many different people choose to handle it different ways. Some people run from the conversation and say, I will never tell you my political affiliation. There's some people who will boldly tell you their political affiliation and say, and if you don't agree, you're stupid. And then and then there's the neutral person who really, they have their point of view. They've labeled themselves conservative, liberal, whatever, Republican, and or Democrat. They've labeled themselves, and they still try to coexist. And they deal with conflict every now and then. I think that's probably one of the healthier places to be.
I was gonna say, do you think that's one of the easier? You believe that one, political is easier than religion? Yeah,
because religion does, unfortunately. We don't want it to as humans. We want to be able to be free to love and do everything the way we want to do it. But there's a reason that those warnings are set up with something as intimate as your religious belief system. As far as politics, you can abandon. Party lines change all the time.
So
opinions and facts. Go ahead.
No, okay, but so. This is a relationship as far as parents and children.
Right.
Well, this parent is older now, older,
right.
80s. And the kids are, probably in their 40s, 50s, somewhere around in there, correct? So
right.
This lady had to literally hide, and this is true, had to hide who she was voting for, because her kids were pressuring her to vote a certain way, and
right.
she didn't want to vote a certain way. And so they called and said, hey, Mom, did you vote this way or that way? And she was like, yeah, I did, but... Lied. Yes. Yes.
I think what happens is, it kind of... Ramon had a comment.
Oh, okay.
before I respond to that. What did he say?
Oops. How you?
There you go.
Okay. I also think the mismatch is upbringing. What I learned is that you don't only marry your spouse, you marry the whole family.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Especially when it comes to
That's a
politics.
good one.
Especially when it comes into the old religious and politics, because when it comes back to the religious side, I know we're bouncing back and forth, but when it comes back to the religious side, when you talk about the family, you have different traditions, and that's when we do get into denomination, even if you do have the same belief system, such as how someone is buried, how a person is, do you baptize,
Yes.
christen, and, children, all those different things boil down to, like, there's a lot of different things to discuss.
Yes.
And a lot of people want to ignore it and say, well, let's just be happy and in love.
Yeah.
At some point before marriage comes into play, you have to be around the family, see how the family, reacts to things. Because even planning out a wedding, that's something else to undertake, to see how an individual deals with a wedding. Because if you're not used to people dancing and rejoicing, and that's an important part. Yeah, but for some people, they have a straightforward, attitude toward it. So there are a lot of different things to figure out.
That was a good comment.
With
because,
family traditions.
and then you have to make the choice to love the family in spite of the differences that come along with each family.
My family was easy to love, so.
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, I think. But yeah, how everyone does it differently. And even one of the things I found is that in certain cultures, there's a more apathetic nature toward religion, where other cultures desperately need God, and so they take it a little bit more seriously. Mm-hmm. And so if you're kind of we'll go on Easter and Christmas, and that's about it.
Yeah,
you gotta, those are some tough ones to deal with. You gotta comment.
So, Rochelle says, even though I have my own beliefs, I don't have a problem with others. It helps me grow and understand there's more in this world.
Yeah. So, I think it's great to get an understanding of different religions and everything, and truly know why you believe what you believe. Yeah. Sometimes it's going to, if we're being real about who we are as humans, it's our nature, and it's the reason why religion exists. Mm-hmm. It's because when things happen that we want to address, we formulate these different things to make us feel good. It's why things have splintered into denominations and all these other things. We tend to make things convenient, and so if I'm going through some internal struggles and I don't want to change some things in my life,
right, and
I run across a religion that tells me I don't have to change internally,
yes,
I can just do the external list of things, that's real simple. Yeah. So often there's times where it does look very tempting, and when I was younger, I grew up knowing about about Christianity, but when I got to my mid-20s, being a Buddhist seemed like it was the most comfortable thing in the world because I wasn't fully denying, right. But, so it was it was comfortable for me. Mm-hmm. I got a little bit older and it became more uncomfortable because I didn't fully
agree.
Something inside of me didn't agree.
Gotcha.
And I had friends who stayed with it, and that's where they were. People who introduced me to information about it, and they're still there, and it's something with them registered. But for me, it didn't feel right.
Right.
It didn't feel right is what I'm doing, doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So going all the way back to, because we splintered this conversation,
and that's okay.
Going all the way back to what we were saying about, you was giving a story about the woman who had to hide her political affiliation.
Yes.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we have to start having better dialogue, because we're having plenty of dialogue as a country, as a nation, as people. We're at all the dinner tables and the water coolers talking about it, but in a lot of cases, it's my agenda versus yours.
Yeah.
Or what I think is stupid, or what I think is an injustice this week, according to the Facebook video I saw, or the documentary I saw.
Yeah.
So when we stop letting it be about our will and going toward the greater will, then I think we can have more things to agree on. But at this point, politics tend to be segmented down to these little brief arguments.
Yeah.
And so it makes people either completely ignore them. And that's the trick to it. When we start completely ignoring it, we wind up in a place where the education system has no funding. We wind up in a place where, we start seeing a series of crimes, and we're like, well, why come there can't be anything done about it? Because there, like we don't, we end up clueless because we want to avoid am I Democrat, am I Republican, and then we end up ignoring things on the local level that actually affect our lives.
Yes.
And I think so. That's why it's important to be able to have a healthy boundary set, but still be involved.
Yeah.
Still find a way to have an opinion and have something to say about the issues and be informed and educated about them without it having to be a battle between, my will and yours.
Right. And I learned something so important this year as far as I always voted locally, but really learning to delve into those questions and learn, the state questions and everything and how to vote and deciding for myself how am I going to vote instead of getting there on election day and not knowing what I'm voting on because I haven't researched it and I haven't figured out what was best, for me and what I thought was best for the community around me. And so this year more than ever, I was really promoting vote locally, get those state questions and learn what's going on and vote on those things when, primaries and all these different things come up. Those are the times when we really need to be voting most because like you said, those are the things that affect us the most.
There's two worlds where these two different worlds with politics and religion, when they collide, there's something that is a pet peeve of mine, and I may not speak the right, I may not have the right words to say this the right way, but hear my heart on this. One of the things I think is the most irresponsible thing that we can do, especially people who have a spiritual mindset, is to say that they're going to be spirit-led going into the poll and leaving it at that, doing no research, no prayer, no preparation, and just saying, oh, he'll guide me.
Yeah.
That's irresponsible.
Yeah.
And like I said, some people may not like to hear that, but I feel like the information's out there. And if you take it from there and you're still confused and you're asking, okay, help me with what, help guide me because I don't know which way to go, that's different than,
I don't know anything. Yeah. I'm just going in there.
I'm just going to go in there and pull buttons and, and poke holes. So I think that's one of the things that what we got.
Ramon said, did you guys vote differently without telling us your candidate?
I think at one point in our life, we've had different voting. The two of us, we voted along different lines, I believe. I do tend to vote without, I do tell people this openly. I tend to vote along a conservative line when it comes to different issues. Well, I think about the different, the judges and who's going to be in different seats in a different way. When I was younger, I was taught to do that. Not by my parents. I just was taught to do that through, talking to different politicians and different people. Through, so that I've always taken politics serious in that way. I found that it was very difficult for me to just say, okay, and I'm being real. It's just me and you in here. I couldn't say, hey, I'm black. I'm Democrat. I couldn't do that.
Right.
I'm not saying that you did that. But what I'm saying is...
But I'll be honest with you. I did do that because that was how I was brought up. You see what I'm saying? That was my upbringing until I learned for myself that I need to be independent so that I can vote how I need to vote whenever the time comes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I learned that kind of, basing it off of what you talked to me about and learning how to vote as a Christian and things like that, and seeing what the Bible says about voting and and our responsibilities in that way. And so that's kind of how I learned.
Yeah, and I think even if we voted differently, outright voted differently, I think those things shouldn't be something that should define how we interact with one another.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that's easier said than done. But if me and you went to bed after election night and I just told you, and I laid it on you and was like, hey, I voted for, this person. and you would probably, you would feel some kind of way if you didn't like that particular person.
Yeah.
It would be difficult for you to, if I would have shared with you who, that type of thing. So I think that there are times where people
So
don't.
Ramal, I have a question for you. Do you and your wife talk about how you vote, or I mean, I wonder how people handle that.
It's just it goes back to the story you told about the woman. I think that's when people do hide. I wouldn't lie. Mm-hmm. I would just flat out tell you, none of your business. You know what I'm saying? Like, and because of that, because I know that one day we don't really talk about it too often. There are some issues that we've talked about and discussed, mm-hmm. and I believe we went two separate ways, but we didn't tell each other we went two separate ways. Mm-hmm. Particular candidates, we know enough to formulate our own opinion, and we don't talk about around here, and it's not on purpose. We just don't. We have our own things going different directions. I didn't have to tell you who you're going to vote for with Hillary or Trump. I think there were some decisions that were made just off of moral, like, who you
right.
how you were made up. And so there was no need for us to discuss those two particular candidates recently, but there was a lot of other things.
He said they do.
And so I think that's one of the, but being able to get along with people and still do it, especially, social media showed us a lot.
Woo!
It showed us a lot, and there was a lot of people that were blocked, that could be
unfriended. It was really messy on social media this time around.
That's one of the things that I feel like we gotta avoid, because you do the friendships, so to speak, not to gain popularity, but you feel like there's something in that person's life that you want to see, and you want to share your life with that person, mm-hmm. even though it isn't personal directly, but there's something that you would want to share. And because of one particular issue, now you're going to cut off those other things that you may have wanted to share. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a sad part, because we do lose out on the opportunity to share life with each other because we're different.
Right.
And it's so funny how it tends
But I believe that things have to be handled in a manner where you're not compromising your morals and your ethics and stuff. And so what I saw a lot happen on social media was people were, going ballistic on certain topics and just the negativity. And I think that's what caused a lot of discord on social media, instead of being respectful of, of other people's feelings and things like that.
I think for me, it's funny how the three things kind of intertwine when it comes to politics and religion. There's always one more thing that comes with it, and that's race. And I think that was one of the uglier things that, I feel like it's important, we have to start having more positive, conversations about it. Because there is a religious, there is a undertone of, there's a racial undertone to both politics and religion, unfortunately. That's just kind of where we are. Mm-hmm. And we lose a lot of friends because of that, unfortunately, that we shouldn't have to. Just because you start looking at someone because they have a belief system that, or a religion, or they follow a religious system that doesn't match yours, and you begin to look at them, were they racist all this time?
Yeah.
And that may not be the case. That may be that's the way they were raised.
Yeah.
They were raised up in that culture. They stick to what they know. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make them anti-you. That doesn't make a person a racist necessarily.
Right.
Because they see things differently.
Because, I think what we can't do is we can't feel like my way is right, your way is wrong. I think that's where you have to come and sit down and have serious conversations, because like you said, especially when you're dealing with different races, if, I have a Caucasian friend and it's me, there's going to be differences of how we were raised. And so we have to come to the table and have a seat at the table and say, have just a genuine discussion on different things. So
everybody, and I'm just going to throw it out there because once again, this is our show. So I don't have to really stop, or say something differently. So everybody, for me, I had to recognize everyone who voted for Trump isn't racist.
Right.
Everyone who, I had to come to terms with that. And not saying that, and that's not telling anyone which way I voted or not.
Right.
But the way the media portrayed things, the way through social media, that's what the line looked like.
Yeah, it did.
It seemed like it was a very clear line of, well, if you vote this way, then you're obviously that. Mm-hmm. And so it puts this horrible stigma that, okay, anybody who voted that way is this, and if you are of any type of color and you vote that way, then you're a sellout to your ethnic, to your race and whatnot. And those are unfortunate, those are hateful things to kind of process, to put people into negative categories intentionally.
Right. Ms. Dorothy said you have to respect each other as individuals. So even if you vote differently from each other, it should not influence your marriage if God is the center of it.
Yeah. So I agree with that. So when it boils down to it, there's a lot of different things that go on in society. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about the shootings that take place. And, you know, I have a certain feeling toward police that differs from your feelings toward police. And I can't change that. But we differ at the end of the day. Now, I respect and understand why.
Right.
But I had to listen to you, and I couldn't cram my belief system down your throat regarding that. We still have a common ground that we agree on with that particular issue. Everyone has a different view on it, depending on what their interactions were.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean that they deserve to be put into one particular category.
Yeah.
You know, for me, as an African American, having a point of view that might be different from other African Americans, it's scary to come out with your point of view sometimes because you're scared that you're going to be put into, in which this term is out of it's never used in proper context, but the Uncle Tom category.
Yeah.
And so you can't almost have your point of view sometimes. You got to be sensitive about how you say it. For me, I don't choose to run from it. I'm going to still say say things that I feel need to be said.
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful of what we do, like with those type of conversations, because it can stop dialogue from going forward. So in our anger, if someone's saying something we disagree with, it can be completely ignorant. We have to, we have to be careful of how we address the person saying something is different.
Yeah.
Respect it, hear it out. That way we have a chance to bring that dialogue to the table and in a respectful way, because that's one of the hardest things to do, is maintain dialogue that isn't personal shots at one another.
Yeah.
Like, I can be in disagreement. We can have different points of view, but are we all working toward the greater good here?
Yeah. Because everybody has a different perspective on things. And so if we don't allow others' perspectives to be addressed or heard, or sought out, then this is where we get stuck.
Yeah.
This is where we get stuck, and I think this is a big reason why we have the issues that we have, is because, some perspectives are shut down, and are not allowed to be addressed and talked about.
So I guess to wrap this part up, whether it's race, politics, religion, you've got your system, you got your belief system. I think, and a lot of times we don't want to hear this part, but when we're doing our part with our belief system authentically, if we are who we are, it makes it easy for us to be free to be that. And the fighting and arguing doesn't exist. I've told you multiple times where the most racist guys out there are the people that I tend to gravitate toward, because they are who they are. Be it through the prison tattoos telling me who they are, or the N-word flying out of their mouth. I'm okay knowing where somebody stands.
Yeah.
They're not playing one way 1 minute and then another way another minute. Being authentic to who you are, but still being willing to listen and find a common goal. For me, I find an audience with those individuals, despite my skin color, despite whatever, that they feel is bad. I find an audience because I have found a common thing within me with Jesus.
Right.
So I found that common thing, so I can have a peace knowing that someone has a different point of view, and I don't have anger toward them for having a different point of view. It keeps coming back down to where you find your peace. In all those different areas, with religion, politics, all those different things, where you find your common ground, your peace, that thing that helps you get past those differences. So that's that topic for today.
I think that covers it.
All right. So real quick before we get out of here, I need you to say 3 nice things. 3 nice things about Patrick Beverly. 3 nice things. Real quick, because we got to get out. 3 nice things about Patrick Beverly, and we're going to get out of here. You can do it. Come on.
He was articulate in his press conference.
Was he?
From what I saw.
Okay. All right, we're gonna get through this. You want me to do number 2?
Yeah.
He seems to go through a lot of effort to do his hair, and that could be appreciated. He does his hair nice.
Are you being
See, no,
Yes.
no, I'm not. I'm trying my best to compliment Patrick Beverly.
What
with
does he
you.
do to his hair?
He does like he seems like he's got natural hair.
I think you need to stop it.
I'm not. Go ahead. Give us the third one.
I'm being serious. And it sounds like
I am being serious too. Okay, I'll take that one back with the hair.
you should.
But I was being serious.
Really?
I was. I admire his hair.
Oh wow. Okay.
And he plays adequate to decent defense.
That was my other one too. So we're right there.
All right. Well, that's it. We don't have to come up with another one. I feel like that's 3. Why did we have to come up with 3 nice things to say? Because we have said horribly ungodly things about that man.
Indeed.
Not proud of it.
No. I had to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, we make our kids do that, so we had to do it. Is it gonna get better for the Thunder, or is this it? Tell me it's gonna get better.
I don't know.
Right.
From the looks of last night, it didn't look good.
Yeah, that's a sad day for us. We're gonna figure it out though, right?
I hope they figure it out.
Alright, so we do take show topic suggestions. We're not scared to talk about religion, race, or whatever's on your mind. We will talk about it, and we're gonna try to figure it out together. So if you got a question, just go ahead and let us know. Leave a comment and just say, hey, I would love to see you guys talk about this a little bit, and we'll talk about it. You got anything else for today?
Love y'all. Thank you for tuning in.